What's up, class? This is Mr. Whitby, and today we will be looking at the Spanish treatment of Native Americans in the New World. Let's go ahead and get started on this today. All right, so our main idea for today, the Spanish developed systems which forced Native Americans to convert to Christianity and work without pay, which is slavery. All right, so Spanish treatment of Native Americans. The journeys of the Spanish explorer allowed Spain to claim a huge empire in the Americas, which made Spain very, very, very wealthy. Here are some of the facts to support this idea. Spanish fleets loaded with treasure carried 200 tons of gold and 18,600 tons of silver from the former Aztec and Inca empires to Spain. Remember, we went over how some of the Spanish conquistadors worked to conquer the Aztec and the Inca empires. Mexico and Peru, that's current day Mexico and Peru, grew food to support Spain's empire. Spain forced Native Americans to work the fields as slaves. Okay, so forced labor or slavery. Now, you guys must know and understand, and hopefully you will learn that oftentimes when we talk about slavery, the first thing that comes to mind is African-American people or people of African descent. But this is not the case. Slavery is the oldest institution in the world. People from Europe had been enslaved. People in the Middle East had been enslaved. People in many of the Asian empires had been enslaved. Also, slavery existed in Africa before the Europeans ever touched down in Africa. But many times when we think of slavery, we think of Black people, and this is not the case. By 1650, the Spanish Empire in the Americas had grown to 3 to 4 million people. Native Americans made up about 80% of the populations, and the rest of the population were white, African, and are of mixed racial backgrounds. So the Spaniards created or used the Encomienda system in the New World. So one may ask, what is the Encomienda system? The Encomienda system was a Spanish labor system that rewarded conquerors with the labor of particular groups of conquered indigenous people or non-Christian people. The laborers, also known as slaves. So the slaves, in theory, provided with benefits by the conquerors from whom they labored, the Catholic Church being a principal benefit. So pretty much the Encomienda system is a system of slavery in the New World where the Spanish used Native Americans or indigenous people as slaves. What is the cause and effects of the Encomienda system? Well, the cause of the Encomienda system was that the Spanish crown offered land and Native American slaves to conquistadors just to come to the New World. This allowed the conquistadors to gain wealth for conquering land in a New World. As a result, Spain would become very wealthy. What is the effect, short and long-term effect of that system? The effect was heavy depopulation of Native American populations due to brutality, war, and disease. This eventually led to the African diaspora and the use of African slaves in the New World. The reason that it led to the African diaspora is because many Native Americans knew the land and they ran away from being slaves. Also, they knew the land, so they fought instead of being slaves. The next issue was many of them died from the measles or malaria. Now, at the time, the Spanish developed these plantation societies, and these plantation societies were called hacienda systems. So the Spanish operated many plantations, a large farm that grew just one type of crop. I'm sorry, that's a typo. This should be grew instead of few. The Spaniards developed the hacienda system, which was a system designed to keep people that were in debt working on plantations. The workers or the owners of the haciendas were called haciendados. They made huge amount of money by exploiting their workers. The haciendas in Central and South America had raised and herd livestock. Other Native Americans were forced to endure the backbreaking work of mining gold and silver. Now, with the hacienda system, with the Spaniards coming to the New World, there began a system where race was primary and important in the New World. Let's look at this system. There was a unique system of race that was developed in a new world. It was very much like a caste system. So at the top of this racial system in the New World was the Peninsulares. Now, the Peninsulares were Spanish or people of Spanish descent. So these were people that came directly from Spain. These people were at the top of this caste system. Now, underneath the Peninsulares is the Creoles, and the Creoles were Spanish, but they were people that were born in the New World. So these were people of Spanish descent, but they were born in a New World. In the middle of this system was the mestizos. The mestizos were people of Spanish and Native American descent. So you might have had a father who was Spanish, but your mother was a Native American. So you were mixed. You were mixed, and you were in the middle of this caste system. Beneath the mestizos were Native Americans, people who were of Native American descent. Those were just pure Native Americans. They were at the bottom. And once the Spaniards began to bring Africans into the New World at the very bottom, they placed enslaved people of African descent. So that there were slaves who were of African origin, who were Black people who came from Africa. Let's go ahead and look at the Catholic Church's role in conquering the New World. Now, the Spanish king commanded that priests convert local Native Americans to Catholicism. Some Native Americans combined Spanish customs with their native traditions. Some Spaniards protested the treatment of Native Americans in the New World. Now, to finish it off, we have 4 questions. What was the Encomienda system? What role did race play in Spain conquering the New World? Why do you think the King of Spain commanded Catholic priests to teach Native Americans? Who did the Spanish look to enslave after the Native Americans died off? All right, now that's the end of my presentation. Use this presentation to complete your assignment for today.